Picture this. You walk into your local grocery store, head to the meat aisle, and the price tag on a simple pound of ground beef nearly makes you choke. It's not filet mignon. It's not wagyu. It's the same beef you've been buying for years, except now it's 40% more expensive than it was just 4 years ago. And here's the kicker. This isn't because of drought, disease, or some global shortage. It's because Donald Trump decided to play chicken with America's beef supply chain. Trump's latest stunt? Threatening a 25% tariff on Canadian beef, a move that sent shockwaves across the border. Canada, which ships 3/4 of its beef straight into US markets, has already started slamming the brakes. Ranchers north of the border are culling herds to levels not seen since the late 1980s. Feedlots once packed with cattle are now ghost towns. And while Trump brags about protecting American ranchers, the very people he claims to be defending are the first to collapse. Families in Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa are staring at empty barns, rising feed costs, and shrinking markets. Consumers brace for sticker shock so brutal that a fast food burger could soon cost more than a Starbucks latte. So let's ask the question no one in Washington seems willing to face. Is this really about protecting America's food security? Or is it just another self-inflicted wound, with Trump pulling the trigger and every American family paying the price? To understand how this mess spiraled, you need to rewind the clock and look at how tightly stitched the US and Canadian beef industries really are. This isn't some casual trade partnership, it's a lifeline. For decades, under NAFTA and now USMCA, beef has flowed across the border as smoothly as electricity on a power grid. Canada raises cattle, US processors finish the job, and both sides cash in on a stable, predictable system. But predictability and Donald Trump go together like oil and water. For Trump, trade isn't about cooperation, it's about domination. In his first term, he went after steel, aluminum, and autos, wielding tariffs like campaign props. Now in round 2, he's turned his bullhorn on beef. A 25% tariff on Canadian beef isn't a technical policy tweak. It's a grenade lobbed into a food chain that feeds millions of Americans. In Canada, panic spread instantly. Ranchers, already drowning under high feed costs and unpredictable weather, slammed the brakes. They stopped buying calves. They let feedlots go half empty. Reuters reporters walked through barns in Alberta and Saskatchewan, where once bustling pens now stood eerily silent. One rancher cut to the chase. "We can't afford to raise cattle just to lose money," when Trump wakes up and tweets another tariff. And make no mistake, this isn't just a Canadian problem. American ranchers are caught in the blast radius too. Places like Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa rely on Canadian cattle to keep processors humming, balance the market, and prevent shortages. When Canada pulls back, US ranchers don't get stronger. They get suffocated by rising feed costs, unstable demand, and processors running below capacity. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau's government is forced into an impossible corner. Push back too hard, and you risk a trade war that guts your ranching sector. Stay quiet, and you look weak at home. Trump, of course, frames it all as patriotic chest thumping. We're protecting American ranchers from unfair competition. But strip away the applause lines, and you see the reality. Those ranches are being strangled, not saved. This isn't protectionism. It's political theater, and it's turning America's dinner table into collateral damage. Numbers don't lie, and these numbers tell a story that should terrify anyone who eats food in this country. Start with Canada. The national cattle herd has shrunk to 10.9 million head, the lowest level since 1988. That's not some seasonal dip. That's a generational collapse. Ranchers, staring down the barrel of Trump's 25% tariff threat, are refusing to rebuild. As one operator bluntly told Reuters, "Why pour money into feed and labor when tomorrow a tariff could wipe us out?" And here's why it matters. Canada isn't some fringe supplier. It's the 8th largest beef producer on Earth, and 75% of its exports flow straight into US markets. That means every burger, every steak, every taco in America has Canadian DNA somewhere in the supply chain. Cut that artery, and the system bleeds out. Let's talk price. Since 2020, US beef prices have already surged 43%. Globally, the IMF reports a 34% climb. Now, the USDA warns that even a 10% cut in Canadian imports could spike US retail beef another 15 to 20% in a single year. Translation: that 6 pounds of ground beef becomes $7.25 overnight. That $4 fast food burger? Try $6.50, maybe $7. And suddenly, the all-American burger costs more than your morning latte. And it doesn't stop at consumers. States like Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa don't just raise cattle, they anchor massive processing plants run by Tyson Foods, Cargill, and JBS USA. Those plants depend on Canadian cattle to keep the lines running. When supply dries up, plants cut shifts. Fewer shifts mean layoffs, and layoffs in rural towns don't just mean lost jobs. They mean entire communities unraveling. The diner closes, the feed store shutters, the school loses funding, all because one tariff turned off the tap. Meanwhile, Wall Street traders are licking their chops. Futures tied to cattle and feed grains are spiking with volatility. Every tariff rumor, every press conference, every tweet becomes a payday for speculators. For them, this is a game. For ranch families watching feedlots go dark, it's a death sentence. So let's be clear. This isn't some abstract debate about trade policy. This is a knife to the jugular of North America's beef supply chain. Herds are shrinking, plants are stalling, prices are exploding, and every American family is about to feel it in their wallet. And all of it, every dollar of pain, is man-made. Every crisis writes its own scoreboard, and this one is brutally clear. The losers are here at home, while the winners cash in abroad. The losers. At the top of the list are Midwest ranchers. Trump promised tariffs would protect them, but what they're getting looks more like strangulation. Ranchers in Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa aren't suddenly more competitive just because Canada pulls back. Instead, they're staring at higher feed costs, unstable demand, and processors running below capacity. It's like trying to run a marathon with someone tightening the noose around your neck. Next come American consumers. The grocery aisle is where political theater turns into everyday pain. A family that spends $100 a week on food could see that bill jump by $15 just because beef is priced like gold. And this isn't some luxury steakhouse issue. It's ground beef, the staple of weeknight dinners, barbecues, and school lunches. When a simple burger competes with the gas bill, you know the system is broken. Then there are US businesses caught in the crossfire. Meatpacking giants like Tyson and Cargill rely on Canadian imports to keep their plants running at full tilt. No supply, no shifts. No shifts, no jobs. Meanwhile, fast food chains like McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King, cultural icons of cheap American food, are staring at impossible math. Either jack up prices and alienate customers, or swallow losses until their margins collapse. The winners. On the other side of the scoreboard, you've got Brazil and Australia sharpening their knives, literally. Brazil is already the largest beef exporter in the world, and every pound of Canadian beef that gets blocked is another pound Brazil can sell at a premium. Australia, with its aggressive trade strategy, is right behind. Canada may even come out ahead in the long run. If the US market becomes too toxic, Ottawa has options. The European Union has expanded quotas, and Asia, from Japan to South Korea to China, is hungry for steady supply. Canada doesn't have to beg Washington. It can pivot. And once those markets lock in, good luck convincing them to come back. And of course, the eternal winners, Wall Street speculators. For traders, volatility isn't a crisis, it's a payday. Every tariff headline, every rancher protest, every future spike is another round of profit. So here's the cruel irony. American ranchers, workers, and families lose, while foreign suppliers and financial gamblers walk away richer. And that's the price of turning dinner into a political weapon. So where does this end? If Trump follows through and slaps a 25% tariff on Canadian beef, the US won't just see higher prices, it'll see the unraveling of its own food security. The USDA estimates retail beef could surge another 15 to 20% within a year. That's not just numbers on a chart. That's millions of families staring at grocery bills they can't pay, ranchers walking away from land that's been in their families for generations, and communities hollowed out as processing plants slow to a crawl. And here's the bigger danger. Once you break a supply chain, it doesn't snap back overnight. Herds take years to rebuild. Ranches that go bankrupt don't just reopen. Skilled workers who get laid off don't wait around. They leave. By the time Washington realizes the damage, it's too late. Politically, the gamble could boomerang. Tariffs may play well at rallies, but when ordinary Americans are staring at $7 burgers and $40 steak cuts, slogans about protecting ranchers start to sound like a cruel joke. Meanwhile, Brazil, Australia, and Asia feast on the market share we handed them. Canada, tired of being jerked around, finds new partners, and America is left weaker, not stronger. So let's cut through the spin. This isn't about protecting ranchers, it's about politics. And in that game, the people who lose aren't the ones making the speeches. They're the ones trying to put food on the table. If you think that's wrong, if you believe Americans deserve better than paying the price for political theater, then make your voice heard. Share this story, hit like, subscribe, because the fight over beef isn't really about cattle. It's about whether American families can still afford their own dinner.